Hey, welcome to Super Social Club. I'm Jeremy. Today I have the third edition in the Little Book series. It's Chapter 3. This one is a blend of all the Jim Beam small batch bourbons, the Basil Haydens, Booker's, Baker's, and Knob Creek. I'll let you know if it's better than the sum of its parts when I nose it, taste it, and give it a mark. Alright, according to the tag on the bottle, this is comprised of a 9-year-old Basil Hayden's, a 9-year-old Knob Creek, 11-year-old Booker's, and a 12-year-old Baker's. Bottled at barrel proof, 61.3% ABV. When I did my notes for this, I found that it takes water very well, so I'm going to add some water to this, and we'll see how it is on the nose. So lots of rich, thick, heavy caramel sweetness to this. You get that typical Jim Beam profile with that peanut shell, the kind of like nuttiness notes to it. Love that. Definitely some spice in here for sure. It's almost like the nuttiness of a Booker's and the spiciness of Knob Creek. Maybe that like caramel is coming from that Baker's. Not really sure what the Basil Hayden's is adding to this. It's been a while since I've had Basil Hayden's, except for the 10-year-old, which I'll get to in a bit. But yeah, really nice nose on this one. Really do like Jim Beam small batch bourbons for sure. And this, you're getting a lot of it in there. Yeah, really good. Let's go palate. So really nice, heavy brown sugar, very sweet. The caramels carry over, vanilla, maybe a little bit of spiciness with like a cinnamon, and then the finish is all spice. Just punches you really, really hard with a huge spice kick right on the finish. The ABV, super noticeable on the finish. Lots of heat coming off of this thing for sure. So there's some complexity to it. There's like a little bit of mint, maybe a little bit of chocolate. But for the most part, I'm just getting hit really, really hard with a big spice ABV kick. When I was doing my notes with this, I just kept adding more and more water to try to bring that ABV down, that big heavy spice kick down a little bit. It helped a little, but you got to the point where you were just drowning it, trying to bring down the ABV. The spice kick would not go away. So for this, it has some great elements to it. I love the nose. I just cannot get over that finish, that ABV, the spice kick on the finish on this. It's just too much. So it's gonna lose some marks for me on that. Unfortunately, I had high hopes for this. I really thought it was gonna blow me away. But I just think it kind of falls a little bit short. I do like it. I don't love it. Score-wise for me, I'm going 84.5 out of 100. For value, this one cost me 165 Canadian dollars here in Ontario at the LCBO. That's probably the highest price that you'll see this for at retail. I think in the States you're paying around $100 or so, which is around 130 Canadian. So yeah, an expensive whiskey considering I think that a good batch of Booker's is better than this, and you can get that definitely for cheaper. So for value, I'm going to take off 2 points, bring it down to 82.5 out of 100. Let's talk about the 4 bourbons that make up this blend. So FREDDIE NOE did this blend. I think it says here that it was his 51st recipe that he chose for this, and he didn't disclose exactly how much of each bourbon was in the blend, but I think he did list them in order of most included to least included. I'll put it here. But from all the barrels they had to choose at Jim Beam, from all the stuff they could go for, kind of disappointed in the result of this blend for sure. Now, some people say that you couldn't recreate this at home if you wanted to.
So even if you can nail the ages down, you're not going to really be able to recreate this at home.
Challenge accepted. I'm going to try to blend a better version of Little Book, and here's how I'm going to do it. Alright, FREDDIE NOE had an entire warehouse of barrels to pick from. I've just got what they released that I can find on the shelf. So first off, in this blend, 9-year-old Knob Creek bottled at 117.4 proof. No problem. Knob Creek, single barrel, 9 years old, 120 proof, boom, easy, first ingredient. Except for, I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use a store pick. This is a 15-year-old single barrel at 120 proof. I just think that this adds so much more depth, more character, and this nose is very similar to this nose. This one a little more rounded, this one a little more edgy, lots more going on. So I'm going to use this store pick. This is a bottle from Old Oaks Cigar and Wine Company out of California. Excellent, excellent bourbon. There's the first ingredient. Next, I need a 12-year-old Baker's at 126.6 proof. All right, well, what do we got? We got a 13-year-old Baker's. This one coming in at 107 proof. So a little bit less, but you're getting an extra year of maturation. Closest thing we can get. Absolutely love it. Let's put that in there. Next up, we need a 9-year-old Basil Hayden's at 123 proof. Here's where lies the problem, because there is no cast strength barrel proof Basil Hayden's out there. But I can find an age statement. We do have a 10-year-old Basil Hayden's we can use. Now, this is 80 proof. So this is going to hurt the overall blend in my opinion. And I'll get to this one in a bit. But it is the closest thing we have in age, so we're going to have to use the 10-year-old Basil Hayden's for this. Lastly, we need a Booker's, an 11-year-old Booker's. Well, Booker's comes in the regular batches, they're between 6 and 7 years for the most part. Where are you going to find 11-year-old Booker's? Well, no problem. Booker's 30th Anniversary Edition. This one is a cross between a 9-year-old and a 16-year-old. So 70% 9-year-old, 30% 16-year-old. You average that out with the proportions, you get an 11.1-year-old Booker's. This one is coming in at 125.8 proof, so just a tad less than what they use in this blend. Very, very close in age and proof. So there you have it. These are the 4 bourbons I'm going to use to blend together to try to duplicate and improve Little Book Chapter 3. Alright, so in preparation for this review, I've gone through nose, taste, made lots of detailed notes about each of these 4 whiskeys and how they relate to the Little Book. Now, I'm just going to go through real quick, do some nosing and tastings. I'll give you a score for some of these. I've reviewed this one. You can check it out here. Starting with this Knob Creek. I love this Knob Creek. So this was a store pick, like I said, out of California. Man, like the cherry cola note on this is so good. You get some dark fruit, very rich, deep, enveloping flavors on the palate. Awesome, like brown sugar, maple syrup coming through with this, toffee. I love this one a lot. Score-wise for me on this one, this is an 88 out of 100. Now for value, I paid $60 for a 15-year-old whiskey at 6% ABV. Absolutely awesome value. Bumping it up 2 marks for a 90 out of 100. Chose this one as my value whiskey of the year last year, 2019. Love this stuff. Excellent, excellent whiskey. Alright, so moving on to the Baker's 13-year-old. Lots of hype around this bottle when it first came out. This is a single barrel coming in at 53.5% ABV. Quickly on the nose. Yeah, great like caramel notes to this. A little bit of spiciness, some peanut, a little bit of peanut note coming through. Maybe some hazelnut too, the cherry. This has a great, great nose to it. Lots of rich, deep flavors, just like the Little Book. Let's go palate. Spice, nuttiness, oakiness, but the finish flattens right out. Not that good on the finish, unfortunately. This is where this whiskey just completely loses it for me. Maybe like a little like bitter oakiness to it on that finish. Not loving it, unfortunately. Had high hopes for this bottle. Love the nose. Some nice notes on the palate. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to score this one 84 out of 100. For value, not going to score this one for value. This was a loan from my good friend Jesse. Jesse, thank you so much for the bottle. I think these were around $130 to $150 at retail. I forget what they are. I'll put it here, what these bottles are going for. They were at the LCBO for a bit. I think 179 Canadian or so. Again, I'll put it here. But yeah, just overpriced and kind of a letdown for me on this one. All right, moving on to the Basil Hayden. So newly released 10-year-old. I think they used to release Basil Haydens at 9 years old, way back in the day before they dropped the age statement. Let's see if this is on the nose. So coming off of these high ABV whiskeys, I almost get nothing on the nose here. Maybe just like a tad of like fruit, citrus perhaps. Maybe some honey. Vanilla. I don't know. It honestly smells like very, very weak. Incredibly weak. Palate. Bourbon flavored water. That's what I would say this is. The ABV just absolutely kills it. Who bottles bourbon at 80 proof anymore? Yeah, this is going to be a challenge putting this into the blend because it is so very, very weak and doesn't really resemble much of anything which is in here. So this will be a challenging one to put in the blend, so we'll see how that kind of goes into it. Let's go to the Bookers. I reviewed this one. You can check out my review, like I said before there. Man, what a great nose on this thing. Oh, the depth of like the brown sugar and cherry. Peanut, floral. Lots of awesome notes in this. Some like leather in there. I love this one. And then the palate and the finish. Lots of peanut notes again. That like shelled peanut. That's really good. But the finish, again, like, I don't know if it's the oak or the spice. Something's just hitting me. And it's just like, just kind of not reaching the level where I think it should. I scored this big mark. I gave it 88 of 100. I think 88 is a great mark for this. Deserved. But like I said, I think I've had like older batches of Bookers that I've liked just like a half mark or 1 mark more. Check out my review of this one. But lots of elements of this in that as well. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off with adding 1 ounce of each of these into a bottle, and that's going to be my baseline. So 1 ounce of each, I'm going to taste it, compare it to this, and then I'm going to adjust accordingly. I'm going to add more of each whiskey until I kind of replicate the profile, but again, in my opinion, try to make it better than the Little Book Chapter 3. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be part 2. So come back in a couple weeks. Once I kind of work it out, I'll let you know exactly the proportions I use and how I made out with this experiment. Until then, guys, have a good one. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and let me know what you think. Have you tried the Little Book? What about the rest of this lineup? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, guys, cheers. Next time on Sipper Social Club. So when I went back and started adding more whiskey to this blend, this is kind of what I came up with. 4 more variations. The Basil Hayden's is kind of like a fucking shit whiskey. Just kind of ruin it. Yeah, that's all I added for the Basil. Baker's I used. So yeah, that's what my final blend looks like. I think I did a pretty good job recreating the flavors for the most part. Now, of course, I'm super biased. I'm going to put it out to my Whiskey Tube friends and see what they think.
Whiskey in the 6-ounce round.
This is Scott with the Scotch Test Dummies.
Jason C. from the Mash and Drum Whiskey Room.
Was sent a blind tasting from my buddy Jeremy.
Let's just dive right in here and let's see what he has in store.
Jeremy, what do you got going?
Right off the hop, the color is virtually identical.
Smells like a bourbon or a high rye.
Like a Heaven Hill or a Jim Beam, possibly.
If I know Jeremy, he's trying to prove a point here.
Nice mouthfeel.
This is a nice palate.
Whatever that is, that's really good.
Big reveal right here.
Sample is Little Book Chapter 3.
Is Little Book Chapter 3. There you go. Sample is a blend I created myself to replicate and improve Little Book Chapter 3. Shit, that's really interesting. Am I a better blender than Fred Noe?
Am I a better blender than Fred Noe?
Am I a better blender than Fred Noe?
Well, based on my choice,